Good morning, everyone. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to start doing our webinar about the Brussels pitch. Today we have with us Ignacio, who works with Kido Dynamics, and he's one of our clients. Thank you, Ignacio, first of all, for wanting to help us out with our webinar.
My pleasure.
So we want to start by asking you a little bit about your company, about Kido Dynamics, what you guys do. How's everything going? How is Horizon helping you achieve your objectives?
Sure. So we are a pretty weird animal because we are a Swiss company founded by two Spaniards. So the company incorporated in 2018, beginning 2018. My co-founder previous company, whose name is Star, got the Horizon phase 1. And then for different disagreement with the previous founders, there was a decision to start a new project, and this was Kido Dynamics. And actually, we went directly to the phase 2, and that makes things slightly more complicated because we had to justify the track record. So it was not the traditional process in that regard, but actually it worked out very, very nicely, and we managed to make it. As a company, what we do is basically we utilize data provided by telecom operators. So this is the information that the telecom operator gather from the usage that the users or customers are doing of their network. The information is named call detail record, and this is a streamline that every time anyone utilizes their mobile phone, that gets registered in the network. So it's a data which is massive. It's incredibly noisy and very unstructured. So a component of our technology is being able to analyze this data very efficiently, and being able to obtain or to utilize this data as a very accurate proxy for mobility. So being able to identify where people come from, where people go to, for how long they stay in a given place, what is the purpose of the trip, and other demographic related insights. We are now operating in 6 countries worldwide. We have agreement with multiple operators, and we are scaling and moving forward. So in that regard, and I would say the key component or the key differentiator for the technology of what we are doing is that actually we are able to democratize the access to this information in a massive way. So we are able to process this data in a very efficient way, and making it available to our customers or partners through our API, so they can download and run the subsequent analysis they need. So we are working with toll road operators, infrastructure managers, tourism entities, governments, retailers, shopping malls. So any industry where there is a need to understand what's going on in terms of people's mobility, or that they need to better understand how their customers or users are moving around, there is an application for our technology. So as you can see, it's pretty broad. It's deep tech. It makes, there is a strong component of data scientists, machine learning, artificial intelligence involved. And yeah, I think that's, in a nutshell, that's basically what we do. From the H2020 or the Horizon grant, I have to say that it was very useful because actually we are not the kind of business that would be attractive for a traditional VC. It's a technology that is very complex. It's a technology that requires, my co-founder, Alberto, he spent more than 10 years developing the technology. It's an industry that is not very well known in that regard. We all have the impression that telecom industry, they are like very shabby guys and they know a lot of things of what's going on. The reality is that when it is related to software, they are still in a very early stage in many regards. And for a VC perspective, I would say our business model is B2B2B. So basically, we buy the data from the telco and we sell the insights to third parties. So it's not the traditional business model that people are used to it. It's not the classical V2C where we can show metrics such as churn rate or customer acquisition cost or other metrics that are in general attractive for the VCs. So that makes that the Horizon 2020 was a clear way forward to allow us to keep on developing our technology and keep on developing our business as it is today.
Nice, thank you. We wanted also to ask you a little bit about your experience throughout the process. How was finding out about the grants? How many times did you submit your proposal? Could you tell us a bit more about your experience in this regard?
Absolutely. So the first time we applied for the phase 2 was in November 2018. In this first proposal, so the vehicle when I joined the company, I was not familiar with it. I was not familiar with the grant itself. It was my co-founder who had gone through the process of the phase 1, and then he was already working with Evolution, and there was an interest on both parties to go to the phase 2. So we prepared the phase 2, I would say relatively fast, because we incorporated the company in April, and we made the first application, I think it was October, November 2018. In this first application, we didn't pass the cut, so we were not invited to a pitch. Nevertheless, we obtained a relatively good grade in terms of the overall proposal. We take into account that feedback. We start working with the Evolution team and try to reshape slightly the application to make it more appealing for the I would say for the evaluation committee of the proposal. We applied a second time. This was in January, and then we were invited for our first pitch in February. We went to Brussels. It was a very hectic time because I was involved in strong commercial activities, and actually I arrived to Brussels directly from Brazil, so it was not the best time to pitch in front of the evaluation committee. But still, the outcome was very good. There were few questions that actually we knew that they were part of our weaknesses, and we needed to address. And actually, the final outcome of that evaluation was, we were not successful. We didn't obtain the grant in this first try, but it was a feedback that was, I would say, nothing to be worried about, or nothing to be too worried. So we reapply again in the next round. That was in April. Then we were invited in May for the second pitch. And in this case, we had prepared, with a strong commitment, what would be the presentation of some of the questions, some of the points that we knew that we were weaker. And in this case, we obtained the grant in the second try. So I would say that it was a 3-step process. We went through the first, being rejected for the first application, second, being rejected after the pitch, and third, being successful after the pitch.
This is great, because I am sure that a lot of clients are finding themselves in similar positions right now. So we wanted to know a bit more about what's it like to prepare the presentation, and if you noticed the difference between the questions from the first round to the second one, and if there were any specific parts of the proposal where they were more interested in.
Yeah, in terms of preparation, I would say that it is important to rehearse as much as you can. To be sure that you stick to the time, you stick to the 10 minutes that you have in your presentation, to be sure that you are going through the slides in an agile manner, and you are covering all points. Try to stick consciously to that part of the message that you really want to share. What is the 3 key points that you really want the audience to stick in their minds? I think that's basic. On the other hand, regarding the questions and what the committee was asking us, I would say that there are certain questions, and I think that Evolution has a very nice job in that regard with the list of questions that are available. There are more than 400 questions. Those really need to be mastered. Not all of them will apply for everyone. For example, there are questions related to manufacturing that in our case, there are, it is not, we are not manufacturing anything, so it doesn't apply for us. But I would say that those questions really need to be mastered. For various reasons. But I think that the most important is that the Q&A time is limited. So that makes that if any of those questions come up, you should have your answer at your fingertips. And that's important because that allows you to speed up the process and to prevent people to stick in certain questions. That I think that's one of the major risks. Actually, we suffered that at the first during the first speech, that someone in the jury, they don't really understand the business model, or they don't really understand the technology, or they don't really understand what's your product. And that makes the situation complicated because people might get very, I would say, can be very bothering in the sense of asking the same question once and again and again and again. And that's a major risk if they monopolize the Q&A. So I would say that it's very important to have those questions perfectly addressed, having the answer really prepared to answer very quick. And also in that regard, be sure what is and I think that the rehearsal process with evolution is also important in that regard. When they propose you to take this trial with them, to be sure that certain questions closely related to your business, and I will give some examples about our particular case, those questions related to your business are perfectly addressed. Because the reality is that even if you have these 400 questions, sometimes the jury will come up with a question that you didn't even thought about. I mean, that could be very weird in some regards, and you have to expect the unexpected in that regard. So don't be afraid if there are certain questions actually that you are not able to address. I would say that in some regards, it's also good to be humble and to recognize that maybe you don't have the answer at that point in time, or that you will study that particular situation. I think it's important not to try to justify you too much when you don't really have a clear answer to a question. Having said that, some of the questions, for example, that we had to face, as I said, from our business case, there were 3 questions that were, I would say, pretty much common across the 3 pitches. One was related to the privacy, how we are tackling the data privacy, and how we are complying with the GDPR, because obviously we are analyzing individual data, and that makes that people get relatively scared when you say that you are tracking people or you are analyzing what the people are doing. So that's something that obviously we have faced many times, and our answers were perfectly fit for purpose, and we were able to overcome this situation easily. The second one was related to the technology and the underlying technology. I think I didn't mention, but my co-founder Alberto, he's quantum physicist, and the way we apply the technology is inspired in quantum mechanics and entropy principles. So in the first pitch, we faced a guy that actually he was a physicist by trainee, and he specifically asked how the technology could be applied to this. And obviously Alberto, he actually, I mean, he excelled in the answer and was not a deal. But the question that for us was actually more like a very recurrent, and we still need to address many times, is that, hey, how the telecom operators are actually willing to give or to share the data with you, why they are not doing this in-house. Obviously it's complicated because it is not an easy question to answer. I mean, in some cases, if you have gone through similar process many times, you really need to have a question ready for that. So I got surprised in the first pitch, because I spent too much time explaining. Basically, say, hey, there are 3 kind of telecom operator. There are those that they don't consider themselves software companies, and they prefer to partner with third parties. There are others that they want to learn how to do it. There are others that they want to do internally. And the question and the final understanding is that the reality, okay, this is not clear why the telcos are sharing the data with you. So after analyzing my answers once and again, I realized, hey, I now have the perfect answer. And the reality, when I went to Brussels second time, that question came up, and I was very radical. I mean, I was very challenging when they asked me that question. I say, hey, And there was one guy say, hey, I'm board member of one telecom operator, and I'm pretty sure that they will not share the data with you. And I say, okay, fair. The reality is, if we were working with one telecom operator, that would be luck. Two telecom operators would be a coincidence, but we are working with 6 telecom operators, which implies that there is an actual need. So the only thing we need to do is to keep on looking for those telecom operators that are willing to work with us. And if we already found 6 in 18 months, probably there are many more out there that are willing to embrace this technology. So I think that in that regard, that was an answer that the guys say, okay, these guys, they know what they are doing. And it creates a lot of credibility for our second pitch, something that we didn't manage to make in the first pitch. During the trial with Evolution, I remember that there was one question that didn't come up in Brussels, but I remember was one question that I struggled and had to do with the gender balance in our company. And that's something that might come up. And if you are in deep tech, I would say that the best way to tackle, and that's my impression, what someone else has asked us about it, it's that actually you are, as a company or an IT company or working on deep tech, you are also a victim of the gender imbalance. But it's something that is happening in the industry. And from a general perspective, there is a strong bias in terms of professionals in the IT sector. And there is a much higher percentage of male than female in the industry. That implies that actually you are also suffering that from yourself. And even if you try hard to be a gender balanced company, it is not that easy when you receive or when you post a job and 90% of your applications are male. And in that situation, obviously, if you have a male and a female in the same, or a man and a woman for the same role, you may privilege the woman in that context if they have exactly the same capabilities. But I think it's something that could be easily addressed, and in general terms, it's something that might come up.
Thank you so much. That was really valuable feedback. I'm sure that our clients are going to find it super useful. And I would like to ask you, if you had to summarize, if you met someone right now who just got their invitation to Brussels, what would be the tips and tricks that you would share with them so that everything goes smoothly and they have the highest chances of getting granted?
Well, I would say the first, don't be afraid about failure. I mean, that happens. It's not something, so you are not perfectly in control of everything going on in your during the pitch. So there may be the situation that actually things get crazy, or there is, as I said, this person that stick or just try to monopolize the Q&A. The first thing, the most important thing, you really need to know your business upside down. So you really need to be sure what's in the application, what is the content that has been shared with the commission for the content, to know your application upside down or inside out, and being able to answer. So whatever questions come up out of the application, have it at your fingertips. That's reality. Be very calm. Try to be as short as possible in your answers. Not to elaborate too much. Try to be, even if might look like being harsh, I think it's better to have a short, direct answer rather to trying to elaborate. If there is a need to elaborate, they will ask you again. But if you are able to answer in a question with a few words, it's much better than giving a much more elaborated answer. And I think that's more important. Try to arrive the day before, because there might be certain situation of stress. For example, I remember that the second time there was a public transportation strike in Brussels, and it was difficult to move around the city. And actually, the first time we got stuck in the city because there were an air controller strike. So I would say that in that regard, try to those things that you can actually master, or those things that you can actually handle, try to simplify as much as possible. There are many things, there are many intangibles that are out of your control, but try to be sure that you master the presentation, you master your application, you know your business, and you have a set of questions that are already perfectly addressed, so you can answer very quick. So I would say that that might be the general view from my perspective.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We were going to talk a bit about how the working process works with us, but you kind of went over it. And because of time constraints, we have to go straight to the Q&A. Just a reminder for everyone who is watching the webinar, you have on the menu to your left a Q&A section when you can, actually some people have already shared with us some questions. So I'm going to ask you a few of them that we just got. So, for example, does the jury interrupt while you're doing the pitch to ask questions, or do they actually wait till the end?
No, they wait to the 10 minutes to finish. I mean, no one interrupts you during the presentation.
Great. How many people attended from your company, and which were their positions?
So first time we were 3, and we were the 2 co-founders. My co-founder holds the title of CTO. I might hold the title of CEO. And then there was Luis, who is one of our investors, and also is the country manager in Brazil. I mean, it was a coincidence that he happened to be in Europe, and we thought that was a good idea to join us. And actually, it was because he managed to address a couple of questions during the Q&A in a very efficient way. Second time, we were Alberto and myself, just both of us. And it worked also pretty nicely in that regard, pretty smooth. I would say that 2 is the right number of people. 3 might be too crowded if it is not justify or not totally justify the presence of that people in the meeting. So I would say 2 to 3. More than that, it's actually there is not much space in the room. So in general, it's a big room with a long table, and there is just a couple of meters between the table and the screen. And if you are putting too many people in that space, it might be too crowded.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ignacio. A lot of people are actually asking about the jury. How many members are there?
I think it's like 7, 8. Just let me check, because I actually took a picture of the. For the name of the guys, and just let me check very quickly. But I think it was like 7, 8 people who were in the jury actually. So here we are. Actually, there were 2, 4, 6 people. 6 people and 2 moderators in the jury.
6 people. Wow.
Yep.
I'm sure that is like a big challenge to face all those people in a jury on the presentation day. Some other people are asking on where to focus if a company has already failed in the pitch and needs to improve for the next round.
I think that the feedback is very important. What the people say in that regard when you receive the feedback, it's the kind of, is the kind of thing you really need to address. Not first of all in your new application, that's an important component, and second in the if a new questions come up again. So if you feel that you have failed for any reason in a given question, try to be sure that you are preparing that answer if it happens again.
Perfect. Our clients are also asking about the remaining time. Are you able to watch like a countdown for the time you have, or is it just you get there, there's no way of checking on the times?
They have an analogic watch on the table, so you can see how much time, but it's not. It's not a digital countdown. It's the kind of analogic watch, so you can see how much time is remaining. And in any case, the moderator is there, and he's gonna start hitting the head of the jury in case they are spending too much time with the questions. So that's what I said. I mean, ideally, it would be a good situation to go through 2 table rounds. So everyone had the opportunity to ask at least 2 questions. That implies that there are 12 questions, and in 10 minutes, it's very short. So that's why it's good to stick to the question and be very short in your answer.
Is there a way of knowing the background of the jury before the pitch, or is there no way?
You have the description. I mean, you don't know the jury until you get there. But in general, if you get ahead of time, you have approximately 30 minutes. You have the names, so you can look on LinkedIn what are the profiles and what is the experience that they had previously. And I mean, you can know more or less where they come from, what is the company they are working for, and what is the kind of background that they have.
They're also asking here about how long does it take to get feedback after you pitch to the jury?
Maximum, I think that was maximum 3 weeks.
Maximum 3 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it is established between 2 and 6 weeks. In both cases, I think we got the feedback in 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks.
That's kind of enough time to know and think about what you might have been doing well or not. They're also asking us, how did you manage the questions and answers section? Was there like a preparation for it? Was it just improvising? Was it because in our understanding it was between the CEO and CTO, right? So were there preparation for this, or was it just as it came?
We did it one session with you guys, with Evolution for the Q&A and some of the questions. And actually, we also ran some stuff in-house. So we have few questions, and actually we asked our team to launch us some of the questions, mostly from, trying to make up your mind and being able to put things together in case you need to answer very quick. Because that, I think that one of the critical elements to have the answer just ready at the exact time that the question starts, to know what is going to be your answer. That facilitates the process. So I think that not to spend hours and hours, because actually we didn't have time to spend hours and hours, but still maybe like a couple of rehearsals or like a couple of tries with real fire. It would be good, like doing the presentation with your team, 10 minutes, and then ask them to ask you a few questions and stick to the clock.
Great. We're getting some questions regarding like more of the technical side of presenting in Brussels. So people would like to know if you're allowed to bring prototypes of the product. In your case, if you are allowed to bring prototypes of the product, and our understanding, it is yes. Yes.
Question is, you are allowed. It's good if the prototype could be touched by people. You just hand it over to the people in the jury. But I wouldn't. My opinion, we didn't have any prototype. Actually, I could show the platform, for example, that we have developed. But I wouldn't spend too much time in a demonstration. So one thing is that people can actually touch what you are showing. A different thing is a demonstration, because a demonstration might take too much time. I think that would not add too much value in that regard.
Okay. They're also asking us, can you display video during your presentation?
If it's embedded, actually, I think the answer is no, because the presentation is on PDF. What they have the PDF on the presentation. I don't know if they received the presentation on PowerPoint. And if that's the case, should be embedded in the presentation itself. But again, if the video is 30 seconds, 1 minute, might be useful. That could clarify some of the content. I think could work.
Okay, I have my technical team here. So there are some specifics in regards to embedding, not embedding, that she will clarify now, so that everyone knows.
Ignacio, sorry to correct you there, but you are allowed to send a video via email. You have to send it in advance. Yep. And this is something that it will come in the instructions once you receive the invitations to Brussels.
Okay, thank you a lot for this. They also wanted to know if everything is set up once you get there, or you have to like get your laptop out and have everything ready yourself.
everything is in place. I mean, the guys already have the preloaded presentation. They give you the clicker, and you just the guy, the moderator, call the shots, and you start talking.
Okay, perfect. And there's one that we find very interesting because of your experience, and this will be the last one for the session because we're running out of time. How different should it be compared to a VC pitch if the company in question is used to do that? So what are the difference between a venture capital pitch and Brussels pitch?
Good question. I think that there is not that much of a difference in that regard. I think that one important question or one main difference is if your company actually is providing a solution that will have a strong impact in society, it's very important to highlight that component rather than the economic component. So if you are talking to a VC, you work on demonstrate, hey guys, we're going to be a 1 billion company in 3 years, and our total addressable market is whatever. In this case, that's important. That's important to say, okay, we have a scalable business and we can replicate and we can go that many markets, but say, hey, but also we are improving lives of people. We are reducing CO2 print, or we are allowing access to education to 500 million children worldwide. So that kind of metrics, I think that somehow, even if you are addressing some of the sustainable development goals, I think it's also important to highlight. I think that would be I think that social or the contribution component is more important in Brussels than for a traditional VC.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Ignacio. It was amazing having your feedback. This is something that we wanted to do for a long time, so it's great that we counted on you for our clients to hear from firsthand experience what it is like. To everyone listening to us, this will be the end of the session. We are going to address some questions that were left aside due to time constraints, and we will send you a follow-up email so that everyone can get both the recording of this session and the questions that were left to be answered. Okay? Awesome. Thanks a lot, Ignacio, once again, and we will get back to you soon. Good luck to all our clients who are still in the middle of knowing what's going to happen to them.
Absolutely.
And thanks a lot, Ignacio. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.